You are here, at home or in the church, at home or in the church building. Focus firmly now on being present mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Come into the circle of love and justice. Come into the community of holiness and health. Come, and you shall know peace and joy. Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Church of Harrisburg. Whether you come with your heart full of joy or in a time of need, you are welcome here. Whoever you are, whatever your history, wherever you live, whomever you love, whatever you do for a living, you are welcome at the Unitarian Church of Harrisburg. Today will be a service of words, of poetry, put together by J.D. Stillwater and me. J.D. has a cold and can't be with us, and he will be missed. In this service, we wish to bring you into the new year with thoughtfulness and a spirit poised to help us live with intention. May the poems all of the readers share with you help in this awakening.
I will introduce the chalice lighting with the words of Rebecca Savage, who is pastor of the UU Church in Rockville, Maryland. It's entitled "The Promise and the Practice." We light our flaming chalice as a beloved people, united in love and thirsting for restorative justice. May it melt away the tethers that uphold whiteness in our midst. May it spark in us a spirit of humanity. May it ignite in us radical love that transforms our energy into purposeful action. J.D. had selected a poem to read this morning, and I was very pleased that he selected this particular one. It's The Journey by Mary Oliver. I first heard it in this sanctuary, and I was so taken by it and her poetry that I made the trip to Elizabethtown a year or so later to hear her read The Journey in person. I'm not sure I'll do it the justice that she could have done, but I'm going to give it a go. The Journey by Mary Oliver. One day you finally knew what you had to do and began, though the voices around you kept shouting their bad advice, though the whole house began to tremble and you felt the old tug at your ankles. Mend my life, each voice cried, but you didn't stop. You knew what you had to do, though the wind pried with its stiff fingers at the very foundations, though their melancholy was terrible. It was already late enough, and a wild night, and the road full of fallen branches and stones. But little by little, as you left their voice behind, the stars began to burn through the sheet of clouds, and there was a new voice, which you slowly recognized as your own, that kept you company as you strode deeper and deeper into the world. Determined to do the only thing you could do to save the only life you could save.
Our opening hymn is Love Will Guide Us, number 131. Peace has tried us, hope inside us, will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. Love will guide us. Peace has tried us. Hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night.
Hi, I'm Elliot DeCourcy, and I have a poem that I wrote myself about kind of the spirit of a UU church and like that kind of feeling of it. I come here trying to forget, and I leave grateful for the memories. I enter this building inches away from drowning in my own self-doubt, and I leave feeling loved and appreciated and needed. I start the morning hating the sky for being blue and begin the afternoon dancing with the sun. This transformative power is what draws me to Unitarian Universalism. I know that I'm not alone in this feeling. It's one that thousands of people have felt. And once you've felt it, you just want to breathe it in. You feel it slowly warm your heart, soul, mind, and body in a way that nothing else has. And you just want to bottle it up or weave it into the scent of a candle. But it's not something you can reach out and touch. It's not something you can see. It's a kind word, a hug, a smile, an action of generosity or of selflessness. There's a transformative power of our congregation. I've been on both the receiving and transmitting end of this sort of magic. And each and every time, I feel a sense of warm, welcoming acceptance wash over me. This ability for your whole week, even your month, to be blessed, for your eyes to shine a little brighter, smile with a little more sparkle, all because of a song or a story from someone who sees you, who understands you. All because of a 1-hour event that will impact your life in meaningful ways for years to come. There's no condition for this feeling of joy and acceptance. No fee or requirements. All are welcome. Anyone who enters our spaces, our lives, and our hearts can feel it. We aren't just a bunch of artsy liberals. It's much deeper than that. Something that transcends politics and petty disagreements. Because when you have a large, enthusiastic group of people who care for one another, who lend resources and kindness to one another in times of need, who come together to better the lives of our fellow humans, our fellow works in progress, you are no longer simply a person in a group of people. You become a family, and that is the spirit of our congregation. Thank you.
We all believe in a bit of magic this time of year. The long narrative poem I will read combines love and hope, and the belief that those things, love and hope, can certainly make magic. The Guardian by Naomi Duprat. A friend's early Christmas card filled with hope and joy shakes loose an early childhood memory of a lucent, poignant awakening in myself. The recollection takes me back to a mid-December morning many decades ago. I am barely 6. Like most children, I'm caught up in the shivery excitement of the holiday season and the anticipation of Christmas. In the small hours of the night before morning, a torrent of chalk-white squalls, persistent and fierce, has swept across the outside of my childhood world, whitening every familiar surface with thick, billowy drifts. I awake to a melodrama of fallen snow visible from my frost-etched bedroom window. Our yard has become magically transformed. Everyday objects have disappeared beneath blue-white mounds, and new landscapes of phantasmal shapes, a serendipity of spectral snow sculptures. At the translucent horizon, a gauzy smear of pastel pink promises a clear sky by early afternoon, a good thing. I heard my parents' urgent determination to drive to the country to see my newly ailing grandmother, to bring a favorite meal my mother is preparing. My father has encircled our car's tires with snarly snow chains, eager to bite down on unplowed rural roads. My parents' tone about my grandmother startles me. Without warning, an icy finger of reality presses on my heart, blunting the unbridled joy that had elated me at dawn, as now I sense the gravity of Grandma's unexplained frailty and feel a bubble of worry settle in my chest. I fidget, impatient to start our drive. When it is time, our mother bundles us in wool from head to toe, protecting us from bone-chilling cold. Driving, the Packard's heat struggles, but we stay warm, snuggling underneath a homemade knitted Afghan. As we rumble along the winding back roads, I gaze through breath-fogged windows at glistening, enchanted landscapes. The world is renewed by an extravagance of creamy snow which rekindles my joy and sparks a gleam of hope. Anything seems possible. Thinking of my grandmother, I am stirred by a wondrous plan and eager to carry it out. Finally, we turn into the welcoming driveway, and as my parents unpack the car, I dart around the other side of the house, a scud of wind nipping my face, to a spot beneath Grandma's bedroom window. I sink down on my back in layers of lustrous, deep flakes. Moving my arms up and down, my legs side to side, I create a perfect snow angel whose outline matches the shape of my small body. Throughout the afternoon and evening, I fret about the angels surviving the rising winds, swirling powdery eddies. By late evening, when we are saying our goodbyes on the small side porch, I gaze up at the moonlit sky with its amplitude of luminous stars and race around the house to look for the snow angel, a small, resolute guardian who is bravely still there. My wild heart calms to see her, incandescent with moonlight, stardust shimmered, a solitary sentinel who will keep my grandma safe.
The meditation is from the words of Alan Watts 50 years ago. Meditation is a way in which we come to feel our basic inseparability from the whole universe. What this requires is we be still. We become interiorly silent and cease from the chatter that goes inside our head. Just listen. Get comfortable. Breathe. Close your eyes and listen. singing bowls will be the source of some of the sounds you will hear. So be it.
So instead of a sermon today, we'll have our third annual series of poetry readings. Reading in addition to me will be Jim Hanshaw, Hannah Belser, and Kate Quimby. And on recording, we have JD. I'll start. We have certain built-in expectations for a poem about death. One of the most famous by Dylan Thomas tells us to rage against the dying of the light. A young contemporary poet, Ross Gay, has a different perspective, as you will see in this short poem. Thank You by Ross Gay. If you find yourself half naked and barefoot in the frosty grass, hearing again the earth's great sonorous moan that says you are of the air and now and gone, that says all you love will turn to dust and will meet you there, do not raise your small fist against it. Do not raise your voice against it, and do not take cover. Instead, curl your toes into the grass. Watch the cloud ascending from your lips. Walk through the garden's dormant splendor. Say only, thank you, thank you. The next reader will be Jim Hanshaw.
For most of my life, I've had this feeling that language is used more as a tool to conceal the truth rather than reveal the truth. I see it now everywhere. In our present political, our social, economic, and even scientific discourse. Too many people, myself included, use this wonderful human tool of language as a hammer, so that the words we use have more of a numbing effect than an enlightening effect. Poetic words, however, can be the exception. Poets, they say, are the rare artistic wordsmiths that can transcend the tyranny of language to get closest to the truth. They are unique. To illustrate how unique they are, listen to the words of the poet E.E. Cummings on how difficult it is to be a poet. Quote, "A poet is someone who feels and who expresses his feelings through words. This may sound easy. It isn't. A lot of people think or believe or know they feel, but that's thinking or believing or knowing, not feeling. And poetry is feeling, not knowing or believing or thinking. Almost anybody can learn to think or believe or know, but not a single human being can be taught to feel. Because whenever you think or you believe or you know, you're a lot like other people. But the moment you feel, you're nobody but yourself. To be nobody but yourself in a world which is doing its best night and day to make you everybody else means to fight the hardest battle which any human being can fight and never stop fighting." Unquote. I have chosen a poem on kindness to illustrate this, or rather the poem has chosen me. The feelings of this poet's choice of words transcends the words themselves. And if I evoke any feelings reading this poem, know that these feelings do not come from me, they come through me. Kindness by Naomi Shihab Nye. Before you know what kindness really is, you must lose things. Feel the future dissolve in the moment like salt in a weakened broth. What you held in your hand, what you carefully counted and saved, all this must go so that you know how desolate the landscape can be between the regions of kindness. How you ride and ride, thinking the bus will never stop. The passengers eating maize and chicken will stare out the window forever. Before you learn the tender gravity of kindness, you must travel where the Indian in a white poncho lies dead beside the side of the road. You must see how this could be you. How he too was someone who journeyed through the night with plans and the simple breath that kept him alive. Before you know kindness as the deepest thing inside, you must know sorrow as the other deepest thing. You must wake up with sorrow. You must speak it till your voice catches a thread of all sorrows, and you see the size of the cloth. Then it is only kindness that makes sense anymore. Only kindness that ties your shoes and sends you out in a day to mail letters and purchase bread. Only kindness that raises its head from the crowd of the world to say, "It is I you've been looking for," and then goes with you everywhere, like a shadow or a friend. The next reader will be Kate Quimbley.
If you were paying any attention this fall and so far this winter, you've noticed that we've had some unseasonably warm days. Of course, at first I thought, well, this is great. I can spend more time out in the garden, and I did so. But all the time, it aroused a feeling of discomfort in me because I know, and you know, this is not the way central Pennsylvania should be in October, November, December, and now January. I want to share with you a poem that spoke to me, hit me kind of like over the head when I first read it, actually when I first heard it in an interview, a podcast by Krista Tippett. Jane Hirschfield is a woman who spent 20 years in a Zen monastery, and I think you can hear the Zenness come through in her poem, Let Them Not Say. Let them not say, we did not see it, we saw. Let them not say, we did not hear it, we heard. Let them not say, they did not taste it, we ate, we trembled. Let them not say, it was not spoken, not written. We spoke, we witnessed the voices and hands. Let them not say, they did nothing, we did not enough. Let them say, as they must say, something, a kerosene beauty, it burned. Let them say we warmed ourselves by it, read by its light, praised, and it burned. I've also selected a very short poem by the poet Jane Kenyon, who was married to the poet Donald Hall. She died way too soon at the age of 48, but for years, her poem has called my attention very strongly to the reality of my life. Otherwise, by Jane Kenyon. I got out of bed on 2 strong legs. It might have been otherwise. I ate cereal, sweet milk, ripe, flawless peach. It might have been otherwise. I took the dog uphill to the birch wood. All morning I did the work I love. At noon I lay down with my mate. It might have been otherwise. We ate dinner together at a table with silver candlesticks. It might have been otherwise. I slept in a bed in a room with paintings on the walls and planned another day, just like this day. But one day, I know it will be otherwise. My final selection is, again, another very short poem by a poet that I did not know well, but I want to read more of her. It's called The Raincoat by Aydah Lamone. Aydah Lamone teaches poetry at a college in the Midwest, and she makes us aware that there are benefits and costs to being in any relationship. We are often aware of the benefits to ourselves, or sometimes the cost of being in a relationship. But seldom are we aware, I contend, of the cost to the one with whom we are in relationship. Hence the raincoat. When the doctor suggested surgery and a brace for all of my youngest years, my parents scrambled to take me to massage therapy, deep tissue work, osteopathy, and soon my crooked spine unspooled a bit. I could breathe again and move more in a body unclouded by pain. My mom would tell me to sing songs to her the whole 45-minute drive to Middle 2 Rock Road and 45 minutes back from physical therapy. She'd say even my voice sounded unfettered by my spine afterward. So I sang and sang because I thought she liked it. I never asked her what she gave up to drive me, or how her day was before this chore. Today, at her age, I was driving myself home from yet another spine appointment, singing along to some maudlin but solid song on the radio, and I saw a mom take her raincoat off and give it to her young daughter when a storm took over the afternoon. My God, I thought, my whole life I've been under her raincoat, thinking it was somehow a marvel that I never got wet. The next reader will be Hannah Belser.
So, when Dorothy asked me to read a poem for this service, I panicked just a little. I've always loved poetry. Here's the only one I've ever memorized from my childhood. I eat peas with honey. I've done it all my life. It makes the peas taste funny, but it keeps them on my knife. There's absolutely nothing deep about that, but when you're a kid, you don't think deep and shallow. I've always loved it, but I don't peruse collections of poems for enjoyment, even those written by Mary Oliver. So as I was trying to think of where I would get poetry from, I was reminded of an experience I had in the last year and a half, 2 years, when all of our services were online, were virtual. And of course, we had each recorded our piece earlier in the week and sent it in to somebody to do their magic. I think, Bill, that was you. Did you do all the magic on the putting it together? Yeah, there you go. And I remember looking at the lyrics that were on the computer screen and going, these are really good. Because when I'm over there playing, I'm not reading the words, I'm reading the music. So I said to myself, that's where my poems are. My poems are set to music. This particular poem, or in poetry and musical theater we call them lyrics, I'm reading today, comes from a CD of songs entitled Midwinter, which are written, played, and sung by Peter Mayer. As you are listening with intention to the lyric of My Soul, which I will read to you, not sing, I will read it to you. Pay attention to the imagery of the soul and of the self, and especially to the relationship between them, vast and tiny, into and outward. And should you choose later to find and listen to Peter Mayer's song called My Soul, you will find the music enveloping you, dancing with you, singing to your soul and to yourself. And that, my friends, is the magical wedding of poetry and music. I give you my soul. There are 100 billion snowflakes swirling in the cosmic storm, and each one is a galaxy, 1 billion stars or more. And each star is 1 million Earths, a giant fiery sun high up in some sky, maybe shining on someone. And deep inside a snowflake, I'm floating quietly. I am infinitesimal, impossible to see. Sitting in my tiny kitchen, in my tiny home, staring out my window at a universe of snow. But my soul is so much bigger than the very tiny me. It reaches out into the snowstorm like a net into the sea, out to all the lovely places where my body cannot go. I touch that beauty and embrace it in the bosom of my soul. And so, brief and fleeting is this tiny life of mine, like a single quarter note in the march of time. But my soul is like the music. It goes back to ancient days, back before it wore a human face, long before it bore my name. Because my soul is so much older than the evanescent me, it can describe the dawn of time like a childhood memory. It is a spark that was begotten of the darkness long ago. What my body has forgotten, I remember in my soul. So we live this life together, my giant soul and tiny me, one resembling forever, one like smoke upon a breeze. One the deep abiding ocean, one a sudden flash of wave. And counting galaxies like snowflakes, I would swear we were the same. Oh, my soul belongs to beauty, takes me up to lofty heights, teaches sacred stories to me, sanctifies my tiny life. lays a bridge across the ages, melts the boundaries of my bones, paints a bold, eternal face on this passing moment. O my soul.
Now we will have J.D.
I'm sorry I'm not with you in person this morning. I have a bit of a cold, which an antigen test assures me is not COVID. But while this congregation believes in the value of sharing, fortunately, colds and flu are not welcome to sit at the welcome table. I chose this poem because it's a little chaotic. It's a lot chaotic, and it's challenging to follow, thereby providing the perfect expression of some chaotic transitions I've been going through myself lately. I had to make marks in the text for where I might try to sneak in a breath here and there. Maybe you're experiencing some of that lately too. The poem is by Thomas Michael Disch, that's D-I-S-C-H, Thomas Michael Disch, and it's called High Purpose in Poetry, a Primer. Only one thing is needed: to speak of matters elemental, of sand and dust in all their multifarious forms, but especially as dunes, which are mountains recollected in tranquility. Of anything as basic as water, fire, earth, or air, to lift it up and say of it, there, behold. To take the old hurly-burly of the world, its cyclones, coral reefs, tarns, and railroad tracks, and fold them into a single affirmation, one massive yes, encompassing all facts, all laws, all sizes, from the wee but mighty force that knits electrons, quarks, and positrons into a net of kinship more complex than that which unites the most obsessed of aborigines, among whom marriage to a second cousin twice removed may be construed as incest. To the friendly and majestic force of the far-off sun, whose warmth and light and X-rays glide noiselessly through the universe, observed, if at all, by solemn spectrometers and institutes on the planets of stars as beneficent, perhaps, as ours. For our sun, you know, is only one of what may be a whole infinitude of stars. A yes, furthermore, to the entire range of beings in between the subatomic and the astronomical, to, for example, the elm trees of Minneapolis dying of Dutch elm disease, to the dear birds about to be evicted, to the worms they would have eaten, and the lawns mown and unmown, among whose roots those worms are ever on the move. In fact, what is there one may not affirm to mutual advantage? For in affirming anything, do we not, in effect, declare our souls to stand in some provable proportion to the object of their affirmation? It is a kind of affiancing, if not a marriage quite. A promise to the sturdy world that we will go on coexisting on terms which we have set forth of love and trust, albeit with an eye peeled for predators and natural catastrophes. For it would be sheer folly to deny such things can be, though as long as they're kept at a reasonable distance from one's desk, they're harmless enough, and even instructive. Indeed, they are affirmable as grass. So say yes to the African lion, and yes to the merciless typhoon, and yes even to killers crazed with drugs, and to the businessmen who supply them with their necessities, trying, meanwhile, to stay out of their way. In general, however, it's best for affirmation to be limited to those objects in nature that can't reply. For imagine if a murderer or even the loan application examiner at your local bank, finding himself affirmed, were to decide that your yes was insincere or failed to do justice to his condition. Did not, for instance, take into account the phlebitis that was driving him nuts, then you might be killed, or at any rate your application for a loan might be turned down, and the improvements you had planned would not be possible for yet another year. And then you'd have to praise a leaking roof or a 1962 Plymouth Belvedere that barely moves, and all because you had, in effect, misdirected a smile. Too late then to deplore the world's inequity or any single person's in it, for your affirmations were so broad that logically you must appreciate all cases, instances, and facts on the theory that whatever is right, including enemies of whatever dimensions from viruses to supernovae. Too late to say yes, but. If you want to preserve so much as a scrap of consistency or self-respect, avoid, therefore, or leave to novelists all human specificities. If figures must be introduced into a landscape for purposes of scale, and usually a cow will serve as well, make them such generic types that viewers of the canvas cannot fail to see them simply as instances of an agreeable fleshy warmth amid the coolness of so many greens, like sections of tomato on top of spinach leaves. Speak of mothers and sons, of workers whose rough hands you can imagine shaking, of dreamy adolescents and their dreams, but do not mention anyone by name, or if you must, at least impute to them actions of a character so neutral as to tend to uphold a general drift westward to affirmation, where all the facts of life have gathered like a jury of sand dunes convoked on a cyclorama, high above the box where the defendant stands accused, whose answer to every question is and ever shall be, yes, yes, that was what I wanted, yes, that is who I am, until both sky and dunes dissolve into one all-sufficing yes.
The Unitarian Church of Harrisburg is always a freely gathered church of free people. The church is created, sustained, and supported by you. The ministry continues even when the church building is open or closed. During the month of January, we share our offering with Rebuilding Together Greater Harrisburg. For the past 25 years, RTGH has been providing free home repair and modification services to low-income homeowners, such as the elderly, disabled families with children, veterans in Dauphin, Cumberland, Perry, and Upper York counties. RTGH's goal is to make sustainable impact and preserve affordable home ownership. UCH member David Powell has volunteered at RTGH for many years and would welcome the company of any other UCH member who owns a toolbox and knows how to use it. For those watching online or for those here in person who wish to contribute online, please see the email with the link for today's service or visit uchbg.org homepage for options for contributing. For those of you who are here in person, instead of passing the collection plate around, we invite you to place your offering in the collection plate. For those of you in the sanctuary, the collection plate is here in the front of the sanctuary. For those in the common room downstairs, an usher will point out the location of the collection basket. Your financial support and commitment matter. Please consider giving what you're able.
In this new year, may we dare to live from the center of our being. May we make our own choices before others' choices make us. May the fire that burns in our belly light our way. May our collective intention make the world shine anew. Amen. Blessed be.
Our closing hymn today is number 1028, The Fire of Commitment.